Hello, everyone. Today I would like to speak about water. Everyone focuses so much on the diet, healthy diets, and thinking that there is something like a perfect diet. In terms of diet, there is no universal diet because one and the same item, physical item today can be beneficial, tomorrow can be harmful. In these circumstances, this can be medicine. In other circumstances, this can be a poison. And so until we know really the science of self, we cannot understand what the universal diet for ourselves is or would be, because we don't realize that we are at the center of the universe. And as long as we are projecting ourselves outwards and looking for the solutions outside of us, instead of listening to our intuitive selves, instead of being connected consciously to ourselves, we are prone to delusions, confusion, and accumulation of a lot of different unnecessary information. Definitely, when you see different perspectives, you can choose out of these perspectives. But the question arises: how do these perspectives affect you or apply in your particular case or for you at this point? If you live in the tropical area, you might need to eat one thing. If you live in the north, you might need something else. If you live in between, or the climate is dry, or the climate is wet, so you would need to adjust your diet. So that's why there is no such thing as the universal diet. And then there is another point where there is corruption of genome, the predisposition, the ancestral predisposition, etc., etc. And the ancestral predisposition will manifest in the form of your mental and emotional distortions. And these mental and emotional distortions will manifest in your body and the way your body processes reality, your environment, people around you, how you handle things, and therefore the way you also process and digest food. And so it's very important. But besides the fact that the diet is very personal and depends on so many different conditions, and until we reconnect with our higher selves, we can't really know the science in its complete way, at least for ourselves. We have to pay attention at the quality of water. And that's why I wanted to say today that the quality of water is much more even important, and the quality of air is also important, and the exposure to the sunlight are much more important than the diet, because the diet builds your body. It helps you to kind of balance yourself energetically. But in terms of your spiritual evolution, in terms of spiritual health, mental, emotional health, water plays a great role. Whether your body retains water, whether you lose water a lot. So depending on that, you would need to adjust the consumption or the quantity of water that you consume. We also have to remember that from ancient times or in old times, people were not drinking water organized into pipelines. And I'm not speaking about 5,000 years ago, I'm speaking much earlier. So originally people had settled around before the industrial, or before different kinds of things, people lived in natural habitat, close to natural water bodies. And so the quality of water was very different. And so I would say that our ancestors, the ancient beings, were much healthier, much more, magnetized, electrolyzed, and so on and so forth, because they had access to better quality of water. They were probably bathing in natural water bodies like sea, ocean, natural lakes, different kind of rivers and springs and waterfalls. So that activity itself will be very energizing, very revitalizing. And so as well as they would be drinking that type of water. And there are 2 points here when we speak about water. The good quality of water has to contain minerals, because without minerals, in the water, we won't be able to digest our food properly. And when we take slightly sulfurous, slightly saline water, which we can find in mountains from natural springs, they are already, their nature is antiparasitic. They already will not promote the overgrowth of pathogenic flora, and they will also stimulate our digestive system or our digestion, because they will provide the nutrients to our gut flora, this minuscular beings, this one single cellular beings which need minerals for their sustenance. The same applies with our exposure to the sunlight. So as our doctors always speak about vitamin D, vitamin this, vitamin that, vitamin D is only as a result. It's a natural production of the body. It's a natural reaction to the sun exposure. But actually, because bacteria or these different singular cellular organisms live in our gut, they don't have direct exposure to the sun. And that's why our skin plays a very significant role in this process. We need to be exposed to the sun, at least to some extent, so that we can actually, revitalize our body by giving energy, providing our internal organisms, good, positive flora with all necessary nutrients from our environment. We have to breathe also properly so that our cells can receive proper, oxygen and kind of be revitalized also through the breathing. And so in later ages, of course, we created all these different breathing techniques, stretching techniques, these techniques, those techniques. But the point was to actually deeply revitalize and nurture our body on a cellular level. So when I speak about water, we speak about the fact that the water is number one. It's the most essential for our gut flora and for the assimilation of different substances that we intake with the food. But the sunlight and the air are extremely important too. And those help us to kind of bring our physical vehicle in connection with our spiritual being. And so I would always recommend my people who listen to me or want some advice to look back at what our ancestors drank and try to also find that kind of source of water which contains minerals, still water, but mineral water, sulfurous water, the water that contains magnesium, zinc, calcium, copper, or any other microelements in very small doses, but the doses that are enough for our body to live properly, to have proper electromagnetic shield, immunity shield from within. Because as our gut flora is at peace, it starts shining, vibrating, emitting that beautiful light that starts creating this invisible for this realm, but it's spiritual shield, which we call immunity, because we tend to think that immunity is something tangible. No, it's actually intangible, and it also comes from inside. It's the well-being of the gut flora of all these different micro elements, microbiome of our being, that ensures our ability not to decompose the flesh prematurely, not to be eaten by pathogenic flora from within, not to be decomposed. And again, the pathogenic flora plays a certain role. If the body is very diseased and, kind of in an imbalanced state for a long time, the pathogenic flora simply finishes off whatever is rotting. So it has the primary focus of decomposition and taking this flesh piece by piece back into the earth, into the soil. Now, as we are spiritual beings and we want to ascend, so our primary focus is to overpower the pathogenic flora, to keep it at bay, controlled in a kind of effortless way by simply making wise choices, the choices that are based on spiritual wisdom and understanding of creation, of biochemistry of self, of in general chemistry of our existence, as well as alchemistry, which means well, alchemistry is kind of chemistry, but it's more now related to spiritual understanding of transmutation of grosser frequency into subtler frequency, and so on and so forth. So for that, for any type of spiritual transmutation, we need quality water, and we need micro elements. We need magnesium, zinc, copper, etc., molybdenum, selenium, and stuff like that. So without these micro elements, our body will be just falling apart. We'll be aging. We'll be losing our hair. Our hormones won't be in a balanced state. Why? Because in order for our glands to function properly, glands need iodine, for example, glands need magnesium, glands need calcium, glands need everything in a specific balanced way. But our current science doesn't know the balanced way. It's just trial and error here and say different experiences of different people from different locations and with different climates, with different conditions and genome. So their knowledge might be applicable for the group that is close to them, but might be not applicable for different other ethnic groups or peoples who live in different other locations. So it's very important to really understand and be tuned within so that you can choose properly your diet as well as your source of water or the type of water. Because if you are tuned to your biochemistry, if you are consciously tuned to your body, you will see that your body will tell you which foods to eat today and which not to eat today and which to eat tomorrow. And every day is a new day. So your choice of whatever you intake may vary day to day. But the water is the most essential. The air is the most essential. And the sun is the most essential. That's why natural exercises such as walking, hiking, just stretching are also significant for our well-being, because it allows us to be exposed to the sun. When we walk, we can be naturally exposed to the sun. It allows us to, stir the energy, breathe a little bit deeper in a certain way, so that, but again, rhythmically, so that we can, redistribute energy properly. So walking, I would recommend personally for everyone. But as you walk, you will also see that maybe you get dehydrated. So oftentimes we're not actually hungry, but we're dehydrated. And it's because despite the fact that we might be drinking a lot of water, this water is dead. It is devoid of different nutrients and supplements. If you drink tap water or boiled water or distilled water, it might be pure, or it might be full of chemicals in some cases, but some, let's say, distilled water can be considered as pure. At the same time, it's devoid of nutrients, microelements. And so in order to revitalize this type of water, you can use copper vessel, for example, like this, or you can use silver vessel. You can keep that water in the sunlight. You can add some sea salt or some kind of unrefined sea salt, not the one that you get in the shops, but an unrefined sea salt, which contains different other minerals, or black salt that is slightly sulfurous, because that's exactly what our ancestors used to drink from springs, sometimes hot springs. There was sulfurous. So that type of water will promote your well-being, will keep your body healthy and free from parasites. So that's my stand on the quality of water and what we should choose for our well-being in terms of water. And again, if you drink quality water, you will not be thirsty that easily, because sometimes we drink water and we overdo, so our body feels like it's too much, and yet our cells are starving. They are having mineral starvation, or they don't get those microelements that they need. And so they can't really purge the pathogens or chemicals that we receive on a daily basis from our environment. So contemplate. If you have certain comments or questions or stories to share, be free, and stay tuned and stay healthy. Thank you.